Looks like we're live. We need Ms. Rivers. Get her. Okay, well, and she can take her time. I don't think anything has to be on the record right away, but she'll want to mosey on out here. Is Ms. Patel, Ms. Wood, is your Ms. Patel back with her client still?
Judge, I believe she's in the back.
Okay, they're talking about a case?
But they are done with, they have a resolution for this.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have Mr. or Ms. Pittman's case? I was going through the calendar and the first one's plea and arraignment.
Judge, this would be Miss Patel's. Although I think she might have discovered an issue with that one.
Okay,
I'm not familiar with exactly what the issue is going to be though.
okay. Is everyone on the calendar there or some people aren't back there? Okay. Pittman, no Pittman back there? All right. We'll figure it out. I do.
I spoke to Mr. Santiago.
Oh,
Pedro Espinosa.
yeah,
It's gonna be a trial.
it is. Okay.
That's the only one.
It's a trial.
Okay. Did you already say when you'd prefer to try it? As in September 28th? Oh, okay. It was 3 counts child molestation. Am I remembering correctly?
I have about 10 witnesses.
Okay, but September 28th works for you. Okay. And did he just call you back or you tried again? Oh. Okay. Okay. Picked up and he said, hey, this is a case I'd like to try, or?
I asked, my office to accede to the indictment.
Okay. Are there immigration issues? Okay. All right.
Is that a conflict? Is this a conflict?
I'll let you know, but I highly doubt.
I know we were like texting about it.
Sure. Yep. Yep. And the last name again? Yep. Okay. Great. I'll add that September 28th. Great. Thank you for that update.
No, I don't.
You do have Pittman.
Oh,
All right.
like,
Try-
did anyone talk to? So
Right,
if you look
because
up
it's-
Antonio Sanders, her name is still on everything.
So let's bring Mr. Pittman out when you guys are ready, please. Did Ms. Convery, you're going to handle Pittman? Great.
Or am I making that?
Excellent. So Ms. Patel and Ms. Wood, we're bringing Leandre Pittman out for plea and arraignment. Ms. Wood was telling me that maybe there's a conflict issue. Can we handle plea and arraignment or?
I think we can, but I would not be filing that entry of appearance component until we.
Well, let's bring him out and we'll get, you can share, we don't have to have this on the record. We can just share with him what's going on with the case. What's the situation with his co-defendant? Is that on the calendar?
It's on the calendar next week, Judge.
Okay.
22nd.
Okay,
So I guess what I'd like to do, and we can put this on the record, I'd like to get them onto the same week moving forward if possible.
oh, they'll be, again, we don't need to get any of this on the record unless he's being formally arraigned. But they will move together going forward. The scheduling orders will have the same information, et cetera.
Yes. Like on the bond
Got it.
order.
Mr. Pittman was. Got it. But the other guy's in custody?
That's.
Okay, that's the difference.
She did conflict off, but why?
What's holding him in?
Because now the co-defendant has court vote.
Yeah.
But. Wait, where's that?
Oh, and you borrowed him from Clayton.
That's on the old.
Okay.
But look at the fact that the
Got it.
co-defendant has 7 other open cases that she has.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
That's what-
gotcha. How are you? Good. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
So Mr. Bowles represents the co-defendant. All right. Okay. Hey, Mr. Pittman, I'm Judge McBurney. How are you? I'm okay. Today is your plea and arraignment day for a case in which you are charged with a bunch of stuff, including murder. So it's serious allegations. And we're going to work through a little bit who may be representing you. You've got a co-defendant, an Antonio Sanders. He's in custody. He's going to be showing up next week. He's got a lawyer. You were on bond at some point, but something happened in Clayton County, and I'm not asking you what that is, but we thought you were going to be a walk-in, and then you were not a walk-in because something happened in Clayton. I'm just looking at your case to figure out. There's nothing in it. So this must have been a direct indictment. Okay. It doesn't say that anymore on it. It doesn't say direct indictment, but there's nothing in the case file other than the indictment and the production order. Ms. Patel or Ms. Wood, let me know what your concern is about whether your office should represent Mr. Pittman. So I can let him know we need to bring him back because there needs to be another lawyer appointed. Let me take one step back. Mr. Pittman, are you intending to hire a lawyer because you've got the means to do that? Or do you think you're going to need a lawyer to be appointed to represent you?
My mom said she was looking to hire a lawyer.
Okay. But right now you don't have the ability to hire a lawyer.
No, sir.
Okay. And that can always change. It may be that you and your mother are perfectly happy with the lawyer who's appointed to you. But if you want to hire someone, you're free to do that next week, next month. So your mom has time. So Ms. Patel,
Yes.
tell me why you're not sure if this is a case your office can stay on.
Your Honor, Antonio Sanders has, I believe, 7 CP cases that our office represents him on. I reached out to try to clarify what was going on and didn't receive much clarification as to whether our office had any meaningful conversations. If we didn't, not a big deal, but I think I'm ultimately just going to have to request those files and just see for myself.
Okay. I'm reassured a little bit though by what you said. I have worked with colleagues of yours in the past who have said, because there is a PD fingerprint on this, I can't take it. And I don't think legally that's correct, but not my decision to make. I'm not hearing you say that. Your point was, look, if someone sat down and got to know Mr. Sanders, what's this case about? Then certainly you should not represent Mr. Pittman. If there's a case file that has notes with things about Mr. Sanders, if it's nothing more than one of your pre-indictment attorneys filing the stock paperwork, then perhaps it makes sense for you or Ms. Wood to represent Mr. Pittman. You just need to do that.
Right. I asked and they didn't have any recollection of any of the information on the case. And so I'm just going to physically go into the office and see if they've talked to the person.
Okay. I'm looking in Mr. Sanders's file for this case. Mr. Bowles entered back in May when it was a CP case. So I guess this would be an example of one where probably your office was representing Mr. Sanders, query whether they did anything more than say, I'm Fred Smith. And Mr. Sanders said, I'm not. Okay. So why don't we do this? If you conclude that it is appropriate for you to represent Mr. Pittman, then you can file the waiver of arraignment with the entry of appearance. And that'll be the sign that you're keeping the case. If not, Mr. Pittman, we're going to need to bring you back here soon to figure out who your lawyer is going to be. Ms. Patel would file a conflict, and my guess is it will go to Mr. Webb.
Your Honor, if the co-defendant is on for next week, could we have him brought next week? And then I think I'd have an answer for the court by then.
I just have trouble.
Let's ask Ms. Nelson. We could Zoom him in.
I think that's better than nothing, and then he
Sure.
would at least get clarification on his representation.
It's a date certain. It's opposed to me telling you, Mr. Pittman, I'll see you soon. You'll be on the 22nd on the Zoom calendar. have you talked to Mr. Pittman about whatever the Clayton situation is? I don't want him kept here longer. I don't know if there's a grand jury warrant or what. There is a W next to his name.
Yeah.
I would hope there's a grand jury warrant, given what the charges are.
I'm trying to look it up, Judge, I'm having connectivity issues because I'm having all day. I
Okay.
can't tell you for sure if this is direct. Indictment or
I'm
not.
supposed to be going over there. but-
It wasn't, it was not for Mr. Sanders. So I don't know how that's probably why it doesn't say direct indictment, because Mr. Sanders was arrested 8 months before he was indicted. It's not, okay. So I don't know, but I just want to make sure Mr. Pittman is being properly held here, or if he needs to go back to Clayton, and Clayton is a jaywalking situation, we shouldn't keep him here a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I don't know the nature of the Clayton issues.
It appears to be a drug charge, and I believe that he was going to post bond, but for the fact that he was brought over here.
Okay. Do you know why, Ms. Nelson, there's a W that often means warrant on our calendar for Mr. Pittman?
Yeah, Judge, this does not look like it was a direct indictment.
Okay, so what is that, how, I don't know that it matters whether we call it direct or not direct, but I don't understand how Mr. Pittman could already have a bond on a murder case. I mean, conceptually it could happen, but I don't see that a judge ever decided that it was appropriate for Mr. Pittman to have a bond on now a murder indictment, not a murder complaint. I'm comfortable keeping Mr. Pittman here until next Tuesday, whatever the 22nd is.
He doesn't have a bond in this case. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so between now and it's actually next Wednesday, the 22nd, let's work through two things. Project for Ms. Patel, can your office keep this case? Project for Mr. Parrish, what's going on with Bond and Mr. Pittman? And if there should be a hold, not for Clayton County, but for these charges, let's get that in place.
Like there was an electronic warrant, but it was confirmed.
Judge, I think Ms. Nelson's correct. There was a warrant, electronic warrant out for his arrest that was not effectuated until he got picked up in Clayton.
And that electronic warrant was for this indictment. Okay,
That's what it looks like to me.
that may be the W appearing on the calendar.
I'll verify that. If that is not the case, I'll make sure the court is made aware next time.
Okay. Mr. Pittman, I know it's probably seeming to you, gosh, these people are disorganized. It's usually not this way, but this case has a lot of counts and you were coming in from Clayton. We're going to see you next Wednesday where we'll figure out, is Ms. Patel going to be your lawyer or does one need to be appointed from the conflict defender's office? And I think by then also we'll be clearer on what's keeping you in jail. Is it just the Clayton case where you may make bond? Or is it this case where you might not make bond? But you certainly are entitled to a bond hearing. You just need a lawyer who could handle that bond hearing for you, whether it's Ms. Patel or someone else. Any questions about that? That was a lot, but I'm trying to distill it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we will see you virtually. You'll be in a booth. Is it a booth day for us? Excellent. You'll be in a booth out at the jail. And we will talk about your case on the 22nd. Thank you, Ms. Patel.
Thank you, Judge.
So we should have an answer for you by next Wednesday.
All right,
Let me see you on Zoom. Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good day.
President, remember the case was found in the issue.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Take care. I don't know. We're gonna want to track that down. I don't think it should be wandering around without a bond hearing. All right, our next position is Mr. Reed. But before we bring him out, it lists Mr. Bridges as his lawyer. I'm not seeing Mr. Bridges here or on the call. Let me look that case up. Ms. Patel, is this your case? Ms. Siri Patel, sorry. Are you gonna cover it for today, Ms. Hall? Position 2? It's a plea and arraignment. I think it would be a Ms. Beza.
She said she was joining this on.
Maybe she's talking with Mr. Bridges. Wait a minute, there's a waiver of arraignment that was already filed. Mr. Bridges declined to put his address on it, but he did put his bar number. Just only 3 numbers. Wow. Okay, he was waiving arraignment. Is Mr. Reed here? You can bring him right to the door there. You all can let Ms. Beza know that, and maybe she figured that out, and that's why she's not here. But this is why I reckon he's got an older case.
It's filed at this moment.
Oh, that's why it says the 14th. Okay. Hey, Mr. Reed, how you doing? Okay, so you have a new case. You have an old case with me where you've got Mr. Bridges as your lawyer, drug case, but you have a new case with some very different types of charges that was indicted. And today was going to be your plea and arraignment day. Mr. Bridges filed something this morning saying that he was going to waive arraignment for you as your lawyer, make sure he gets the discovery from the state, and then he's going to connect with you either by going to the jail or doing one of those video links to get you up to speed on the new charges. Do you know what you're charged with in the new case? It's aggravated assault. Let me tell you, I'm not going to read the whole indictment, but let me tell you, here's the new case. Basically, so you can understand what the allegations are. So it alleges that on Halloween of last year, you assaulted someone named Consuela Mack and Markel Reed and Jakaya Waitha. Sorry if I mispronounced their names. You fired a weapon. Not that you hit them, but you shot in their direction. And also a Maki, M-A-K-H-I, Mac, same allegation. And then I guess 3 of those are kids, maybe your kids with Ms. Mack. And so it all flows from whatever that's about. And today is not the day to talk about what that's about. I just want you to know this indictment relates to whatever went down on Halloween of last year, and you're accused of that. Mr. Bridges has got the case. He's entered an appearance on your behalf. And he's going to talk to you about what do we do? You got your drug case. We got this alleged shooting. Are we going to try it? We're going to work it out. And he knows the lawyers he needs to talk to. Okay. So I'm sorry we brought you over. He filed the paperwork this morning and we had already gotten you on the bus. So not a wasted day and you got a field trip of sorts, but Mr. Bridges is taking care of you. Okay. All right. Thank you. So position 3, the defense attorney listed is a Caitlin Johnston. Is that a public defender?
Yes, Your Honor.
And whose case is this?
Your Honor, that will be mine.
This Woods is like somehow is today is just like woo, Teflon, no trials, no new cases. Is Robert Reynolds here?
No, Your Honor, and unfortunately, even though I requested the file 2 weeks ago, my administrative assistant has located it.
Okay.
So I would just ask that I have the opportunity to try to reach out to him once I receive that file. I understand that Your Honor may issue a bench warrant at some point.
Well, the calendar has a W on it, which says to me maybe there's already a warrant. It's not one that I think I've issued, but it doesn't, I mean, he may have other business. Yeah, there's a big old W. It's interesting. It says, well, 0 active. I don't know how to do Odyssey and warrants.
Can I click?
He was in non-comp. Oh, it's a repeat offender.
Oh, wait.
Wow, cases from the early 90s. Okay. It's got 5 Z convictions. Let me see what this indictment.
Oh, I don't think. that's-
All right, so the conduct alleged in this case is not all that old. It's October of last year. I just wanted to make sure, this wasn't something from 2018 that was only now getting indicted.
Oh. Wait. Does that mean? because-
So, Ms. Patel, what I'll do, Ms. Hall, I'm assuming you want a bench warrant since Mr. Reynolds is not here. I will hold off on doing that till the end of the week. If you can make contact with Mr. Reynolds and he can make contact with us, I'm assuming you'd waive arraignment on his behalf. That may have already happened in non-complex, but we'd want to do it here anyway and have you file your entry. And I think that's it for him. He may be a great drug court candidate, just saying. Unless he's done it before. Okay, so until Friday to appear.
Just note. Looks like he appeared on
Got it.
8/24 non-complex.
Mr. Stinson is next, and I think the Patels, don't bring him out quite yet. Although there's a DeMarco on our call too.
That might be his wife.
Okay. So wait. Here it is, DeMarco Stinson, arson and aggravated assault in June of this year is the allegation. So we'll bring him out. Is this for a full-blown hearing or something different?
Maybe we have a resolution.
Okay, well, let's have Mr. Stinson come out so he can hear about this.
And
Mr.
Judge, I'm sorry. How are you?
You are up next. We've got Mr. Haynes, AKA Mr. Smith, is the very next
Okay.
position, okay?
Okay, great. I was just making sure I was on the calendar. Okay, thank you.
You are. Ms. Hall, has there been any movement with Mr. Smith's case? This is the one, he's got 6 open CP matters. Okay, well, we'll talk as a group in a minute. All right, Ms. Rivers, are you ready? Great. We're going to go on the record in position 4, which is 17 SC 152596, State versus DeMarco Stinson. Hello, Mr. Stinson.
Hello, how you doing, Jan?
I'm Judge McBurney. You guys can go back to talking. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure you were here. We've got Siri Patel representing the state, Shamal Patel representing Mr. Stinson. And Mr. Stinson is here because in June of this year, I signed a warrant for his arrest because it is alleged that he violated his probation by, number 1, failing to complete the MADRC, and number 2, committing aggravated assault, arson, and cruelty to children on June 20th of this year. So a little less than 3 months ago. So Shamal Patel, they may be both non-technical. Clearly the new offenses are non-technical. I think failing to complete MADRC is likely a violation of a special condition, but either way, we can work through that. Is Mr. Stinson admitting to one or both of these allegations, or how is he proceeding today?
Your Honor, will be stipulating to the allegations.
Okay, In light of that, Siri Patel, what is the state's recommendation?
Our recommendation is to revoke 6 months. I believe Mr. Stinson only has 9 months left of probation. And we will be in exchange NPGJing or not presenting to grand jury his new case.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Ms. Crawford, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge.
How much time do you have remaining on Mr. Stinson's case?
Mr. Stinson has 9 months and 4 days remaining.
Okay. So Siri Patel, your recommendation is to revoke about 2/3 of what remains. And then Mr. Stinson's on probation for 3 more months, or are you thinking that you terminate or suspend whatever's left?
We'd like to continue him on the last 3 months.
Okay. Shamal Patel, is this a joint recommendation or it's a non-negotiated?
It's a joint recommendation, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Stinson has been in since about when?
He's been in for 83 days.
Okay. And this NPGJ is nothing I get in the middle of. I think that's basically it's a clerical or administrative action that your office, Siri Patel, takes.
Correct.
But you're representing on the record that that's what will be happening with the allegations from June 20th.
Yes.
Was there no fire or?
There was no fire. And I'd like to put on the record, we have spoken to the victims about the case. And I watched the body camera footage, which I did turn over to Ms. Shamal Patel. There was a fight that ensued between Mr. Stinson and his both 16-year-old twin sons. And I think during that tussle, some lighter fluid was thrown. So there was no actual fire, just a smell of lighter fluid. But the children told me when I talked to them on the phone that they had been mowing the lawn that day and they were unwilling to come to court to testify.
Okay, got it. And will Mr. Stinson be going back home to the same household with those 2 young men?
I believe Ms. Shamal Patel said there's some treatment facility or something that they're looking into.
For Mr. Stinson?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell me what the plan is for Mr. Stinson?
Your Honor, at least when I spoke to his wife, I believe she's on the call. Is your wife on the call?
There is a DeMarco's iPad on the call. I don't know if that is, it's muted.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how are you, ma'am?
Hey, I'm okay.
Great.
She had found a program for him that she would like to see him enter into. I believe it, and she couldn't correct me if I'm wrong, it was Making a Way housing.
Yes.
Great. And this is going to help Mr. Stinson with what?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Tamika.
Yes, it'll help him as far as just getting his stuff together and just figuring out what he's gonna do with his life.
Okay. And your preference is that he spend some time in that program before he comes back to the Rutgers Drive address?
Yes, and it's
Okay.
not records. It's we have a new address. It's evidence.
Okay.
I don't know how to record.
You used to live at Rutgers?
Yes, that's been a while ago.
Okay, that's just what I've got on some paperwork right here. Do your twin sons still live with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Mr. Stinson, you understand that the state has recommended that I revoke some probation, so you'll be in a little bit longer. When you get out, there's a program that your wife has found that it sounds like a lot of folks think you benefit from. Shamal Patel, I guess I'd start with Siri Patel. Are you requesting that this be added as a condition of his probation for those last few months that he participated in the program?
That isn't something we negotiated, but yes, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Shamal Patel, your thoughts about that?
Your Honor, it's not so much that I'd be objecting. I just don't know enough about the program that I could tell Your Honor in terms of how long it is.
Well, unless it's only 3 months, the only authority we'd have over Mr. Stinson would be to participate in the program for the remainder of his probation, which seems like a good idea. But I want to hear from Mr. Stinson as well. What are your thoughts, sir?
As far as the program, I'm willing to participate in it for the remainder of the probation that's left, Your Honor.
Okay. And the name of it is?
It's called Making a Way.
Okay. Great. All right. So here's my thought, and then I'll get input from both sides. Mr. Stinson, in light of your stipulation that you and your sons got mixed up in something, and you also did not complete MADRC, which tells me at some point you were working through an addiction to something, whether it's alcohol or drugs. The fact that you were supposed to do MADRC makes me think you doing Making a Way would be a good idea. But because of your stipulation, I find that you violated your probation, and I will revoke 6 months of your probation. You'll get credit for all the time you've been in. When you get out, I'm reinstating your probation, so you're going to have about 3 months of probation left. It will be a special condition of your probation that you enter into and participate in the Making a Way program, as long as you're on probation, which, like I said, is 3 months. I'm also going to waive your probation supervision fees for the remainder of your probation. It's only 3 months. Have you been working before you got locked up?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
What kind of work?
With my father-in-law, remodeling homes.
Okay. Remodeling homes with your dad. Do you think you'll be able to go back to doing that?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Well, I hope that works out. Your probation will end pretty soon after you get out. My hope is a man of your age can be done with probation and you can be heading in a different direction. But it does sound like there's some issues that come up and maybe you get angry and then you get locked up. And that doesn't help you, and it's certainly not helping the folks you care about. Siri Patel, anything else in Mr. Stinson's case?
No, Your Honor.
Shamal Patel.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Crawford, what kind of information do you need to share with Mr. Stinson or get from Mr. Stinson?
Judge, I'm just gonna give Mr. Stinson a 48-hour to report to probation. So 48 hours after you're released, report to your officer, Officer Foster, at 276 Moyer Drive. Do you remember where probation is?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so once you're released, you have 2 days to report to Officer Foster, and I'll put it in your case notes.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Great. All right. That's the plan. Let's ask Ms. Shamal Patel, Mr. Stinson's wife, if she's got any questions since she's still on. Oops, she may. Yeah, she's still there.
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
All right. All right, that brings us to Mr. Haynes, AKA Mr. Smith. That's Mr. Fortis's client. Mr. Fortis is with us online. Ms. Hall is here in court. And I think Mr. Smith will be brought out in just a minute.
Your Honor, Mr. Reynolds is here, position 3.
There he is. Better late than never, Mr. Reynolds. Wrong courtroom. All right. Well, we're glad you're here. Ms. Patel is going to fill out some paperwork and talk with you about your case a little bit. When she says that you can go, you can probably go. Let me check one thing. Yeah, he has a barn.
This is Smith. They asked for Smith.
Hold on.
Huh?
Ian Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
So our monitor's off, so yeah, you might.
Yeah.
want to go to that. Right.
I don't know.
All good.
Hey, Mr. Reynolds, an address that I have for you is Acacia Lane in Mableton.
Yes, sir.
That's a good address?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's how you'll know to come to court, is that, well, you'll know in two ways. One, Ms. Patel will hopefully have all sorts of good phone numbers to reach you or an email address, but we'll also be mailing things to that address in Mableton, okay?
I got a notice in the mail to the address.
Good. And it's gonna be this courtroom, 8D. You found it this time, you'll be able to find it next time.
Yes, sir.
Great. All right, so Ms. Patel, when you are done filling that out, you can take a seat, Mr. Reynolds. You can let Mr. Reynolds know when he's good to go. Okay? Sorry, Mr. Smith, to keep you standing there. We had a surprise late arrival. So we've got Mr. Fortis. You should be able to see him on the screen there, the snazzy lavender shirt. We've got Mr. Smith here in court. We've got Ms. Hall. And we've been through this now a few times. You've got 6 unindicted cases and this petition that I signed in October of last year that flagged these multiple entering autos that supposedly happened in Roswell. And so insofar as those are fairly good cases for the state, you're earning good time. But I think you may have reached way before I did this sense of how long are we waiting for this to happen? So
Judge, let me bring it forward if I could.
please.
So the last that we were in court, what we had discussed was obviously bringing forward the cases, the CP cases, to consolidate those cases together.
Yes.
We had a place, we were working on a place for Mr. Smith. He's been accepted into the Hope House. All that information was emailed over to Ms. Hall. And, I don't know where we are at this point. It seems to me that we're in the same position we were the last time we were in court.
I think we may hear that, and not to defend Ms. Hall, she is.
No, I'm not casting dispersions. I'm just saying, I don't know how long they're going to hold this space, but
Right.
It hasn't been easy.
Right. No, I'm not either. I mean, Ms. Hall may have a report for everyone as to what another part of her office is doing or not doing with these unindicted cases. But let me hear from her, and then it may be appropriate to fashion a bond but that's really not the right term because Mr. Smith, we need to look into the CP cases as well, because if he has no bond there, it may be that we set a bond in those cases that releases him to Hope House so that we know where he is. It's a condition of his bond, and it becomes a condition of his probation here. But let me hear from Ms. Hall first, please.
So I received an update from our intake division, and these cases were originally assigned to someone who is now not working in the office anymore. So they were reassigned to a different attorney who gave me an update that they will be presented to the grand jury the next 2 to 3 weeks, more so the 2 weeks than 3. So that's what we are. There's always obviously the option of the defendant waiving, the state being able to accuse these cases in doing a global resolution, but that wasn't what we talked about the last time. We were more focused on getting them indicted. So, I am open to that if that's what we're looking at, but I also thought we were just trying to get the cases indicted because this is for probation revocation, not for the actual CP cases. So that may be my confusion on that, and I apologize if that was the case, but I do have that update. I am sure that they probably will be indicted because I the evidence that started to pile up on each of the cases.
Yeah.
But that isn't my division, so I wasn't really over top of it for seeing it probably like I should have been. So that is an update from us. But again, we do have the option of waiving and get those cases indicted and get a global resolution if that's what the defendant wants.
So I'll hear from Mr. Fortis on that in just a minute. But I'm liking what I'm hearing in one respect. I didn't know that the accusation option was a tool again. There was a time when the new district attorney, not new anymore, but Ms. Willis had said, I'm just going to put a break on things. I don't want us accusing things. I want to understand what's going on in this place. But maybe we've moved past that, and with the right authorization, ADAs are again able to accuse cases, maybe not a murder, but this doesn't involve murder. It looks like it's a lot of entering autos. I'm looking at a possession of a firearm charge, et cetera. But these 6 CP cases, you believe you'd have the authority to accuse, assuming Mr. Smith waived his right to have a grand jury pass on that. Okay. Mr. Fortis, that's new to me. It may not be new to you, but I'm wondering if that is the most efficient way to work through this, so that we're not figuring out, does Mr. Smith go to a location for a little while, then he's hauled out of there because he needs to deal with these cases again. Have you had a chance to talk with a prosecutor about a global resolution, one who was empowered to accuse the cases, or has it been more of a passive, when are we going to indict these things?
I think, Judge, and if I may, and I would say that Ms. Hall and I have worked together in the past, so I don't see any reason that we're not going to get this case resolved in the fashion I think that everybody wants. The issue is that, you know, given what's been going on as far as the global pandemic, I know that things have been very difficult. So there has been individuals that have been in custody longer than Mr. Smith. And I think that there are those cases that take priority. That's not to minimize Mr. Smith's position. It just is the facts of what's been going on. What I would like to do, and I think that I am familiar with that, is for us to go ahead and sign off on that waiver so we can go ahead and get these cases, you know, moving without the grand jury. And I think that that would favor not only, you know, Mr. Smith and moving along to get some help, but also it would alleviate some of the issues with what the state's going through to get some of these cases accused. So I'm certainly open to that, no problem. I can tell you that I've been in constant contact with Mr. Smith's family, and, you know, and they desperately want him to get this help. There's a underlying substance abuse problem that needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
So this is the best way, I think, to address it. And that I have spoken with Mr. Smith about, with respect to how we're trying to fashion the ultimate conclusion of all of these matters. And as long as I can get the state and Ms. Hall on board, I think that that would be what we'd want to do. So in summary, I will do anything to expedite this matter and get Mr. Smith moving and get him the help that he needs, because he's certainly not getting that help right now, and he really needs it.
Right. Okay. So I think Mr. Smith, have you understood the things that people have been talking about here? I'll make sure you're following us in all this. Okay. So I'm going to share with you this. Mr. Fortis continues to be a very effective advocate for you. And I think he's being thoughtful about the right way to move this forward. What I'd like to do, Ms. Hall, knowing that we just spent about an hour talking about all the cases you have that need to be ready for trial, is to have you share with me and Mr. Fortis and Mr. Smith a time frame that you think you might be able to work in, where you'd be able to reach out to Mr. Fortis and say, if we're going to resolve all this, what would it look like? And it sounds like Mr. Fortis, and he needs to talk with Mr. Smith in private about it, but that he is open, I think it's wise, to this notion of allowing the state to accuse these cases so that there is an overall resolution that may have a punitive aspect to it, given the number of cases, but more importantly, has a rehabilitative aspect, whether that's a drug court or a Hope Hall or RSAT or who knows what, that would get Mr. Smith some treatment that would get him out of just flipping through these different CP cases. There's a whole lot of stuff. And I think this petition actually only scratches the surface of those cases. I saw financial transaction card fraud, like I said, this gun charge, but it all has the hallmarks of someone who is in the throes of an addiction. Is like, you know what, if I need to break in this car to get this, to get my next fix, I'm going to do it again and again and again. So long way of asking you, are you in a position to connect with Mr. Fortis in the next couple of days, not to fix everything, but to say, here's the best way to move forward?
can contact him on tomorrow or Thursday and speak about the case. Like I said, most of the evidence is being gathered, so I can look at, those sleepy cases and see how, what's the best way to move forward as far as the resolution. But I can definitely make that call, Mr. Forrest, I have his information.
Okay.
Email, so I have contact information.
And if you and Mr. Fortis seem to be making good progress, are you able to call off this person who's going to get these things indicted? I mean, maybe you may choose not to. The two of you may choose not to. But if we're keeping it all under one roof, then if they're accused, I can deal with all those things. If they are indicted, they'll be randomly assigned. They may go to non-complex initially, but non-complex may say, whoa, this is too much stuff, and then it bounces somewhere else.
Okay, so once I talk to Mr. Fortis and see if he's amenable or finds amenable to what our offer would be on all of them, even with the help, I can have, our intake division not indict those cases, so that we can accuse them.
Okay. Well, Mr. Fortis, why don't we do this? It sounds like Ms. Hall's in a position to connect with you later this week. After the two of you talk, why don't you and Ms. Hall let Ms. Nelson know how soon we should get this back on a calendar? I don't want to drag Mr. Smith over here until we're in a position to resolve things. In the same way that I don't want you, Mr. Fortis, to have to dial in or show up in court. I think you and Ms. Hall will have a much better sense after you talk. Hey, this is something that we ought to be able to button up in 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever the magic number is. It's easy for us, as you've experienced now, to get Mr. Smith back on a calendar. Does that work for you, Mr. Fortis?
It does, Judge, but I just want to reiterate that we finally have gotten him, a position at the Hope House. And I alluded to earlier that it wasn't easy in that, number one, given COVID and the constraints that they have with the interview process and the way that they're structuring the Hope House because of COVID, it hasn't been easy. So, understand, Ms. Hall has a lot more going on than Mr. Smith's case, and I will work with her to expedite this as quickly as possible. But if that's an option where he's going to go to this Hope House and Ms. Hall approves of that, I would rather get that moving sooner rather than later so we don't lose the spot and then I have nowhere for him to go.
I understand. And it may be that what flows from your conversation is, look, let's just set a bond on these things and get them to Hope House and know that we're all reconvening for a negotiated plea to one accusation that shoves all the cases into it. You guys will structure it in whatever way makes the most sense. It may also be, as Ms. Hall talks to you about it, you understand that the notion of Mr. Smith getting out right away isn't what the state has in mind. But at least then the things will be accused so that we can get closure on it one way or the other. So I'm not interested in Mr. Smith losing out on the Hope Hall bed. I know from experience that one, it'll be there for a little bit, and two, if not, there will be additional openings. I just think it's great that the family has been supportive of lining up a resource like that. And if we need to move quickly after you and Ms. Hall talk, we'll definitely move quickly. Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, Mr. Smith, any questions?
No, I'm good. I appreciate it.
You bet. So Mr. Fortis will talk with Ms. Hall and then he'll circle back with you or your family. It may be that you hear more from your family because it's easier for Mr. Fortis to talk to them. It may be you hear directly from Mr. Fortis. I'll let you guys manage those communications. Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Appreciate it, Scott.
All right. See you, Mr. Smith. All right, Judge, that's all I have. I will be in contact with Ms. Hall and I'll do whatever necessary to help her in moving this case forward. All the cases forward.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, sir.
It's good to see you as always.
All right. Take care.
Is there a court date just for management purposes that I need to calendar?
No, I'm going to let you and Ms. Hall talk, and then you guys can let Ms. Nelson know. I mean, I'll put a backup thing so this doesn't fall through the cracks, but I'll put it out a couple months so that we don't forget about the case. But I'm assuming that I'll hear from you and Ms. Hall that, hey, we're ready in this number of days, and then we'll get it on there. Okay.
That sounds great. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Take care. If Ms. Siri Patel is staying for John Connor, then yes, you may go. All right. Okay. Okay. Ms. Beza is still on, so she's listening. Folks who are on the Zoom call, it may shut down at 2:45, but we've got Mr. Connor here in court. It's an open court, so I'm at peace if it ends. You can bring Mr. Connor out, please. All right, Ms. Rivers, are you ready? All right, this is position 6, 18 SC 162181, State versus John Connor. Good afternoon, Mr. Connor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Mr. Connor is here from Douglas County, where he's been for a while. And we are going to work through a question about bond, and I have got a couple other procedural questions about the case. The state is represented for this hearing by Siri Patel, and Mr. Connor is represented by Shamal Patel. There is a motion to revoke bond that was filed on June 14th, along with a bunch of other motions. There was a concern that Mr. Connor might get released from Fulton County custody because the Douglas County charges had been dismissed, and Judge Reeder, my predecessor on this case, had entered effectively a signature bond to get Mr. Connor over to Douglas County. There is an older bond in this case that is not a signature bond for a significant amount of money that seems like the bond that ought to be reinstated. I'm happy to talk about revocation, but I couldn't find anything in the record that suggested a basis to revoke the original bond. I think this is Judge Tucson bond. I don't know, maybe she had it pre-indictment, because otherwise I don't know why she would have been on this case. That bond was effectively modified. It didn't say that. It just was a different order for bond that Judge Reeder entered that got Mr. Connor over to Douglas County. It doesn't sound like there's any basis for us to return Mr. Connor to Douglas County, that he ought to be here, but it ought to be under the original non-signature bond. A signature bond would be an illegal bond given these charges. And that's not what Judge Tucson did. So that's my thought about bond, but I'll certainly hear from both sides. And then I had a question about whether Mr. Connor had been evaluated, because calendar notes that maybe something was pending. I don't want anything more pending on this case. It's old. I want it to be a ready case, not a pending case, when we can get there. But why don't I start with the state? Siri Patel, what are your thoughts about bond?
Your Honor, I think you said it correctly. We don't have a basis for revoking the bond completely. We just wanted to revert to Judge Tucson's